Money rarely disappears in dramatic, obvious ways. It usually moves quietly, in small transfers, in subtle restructurings, in financial decisions that look ordinary on the surface, until you realize the pattern beneath them. This isn't about assuming guilt. It's about understanding financial behavior that often goes unnoticed inside marriages. Many women only discover these patterns during separation or divorce, when forensic accountants begin tracing transactions that were hiding in plain sight. Let's check out 5 of the most common ways husbands move money without their spouse immediately noticing, and why they're often overlooked. 1. Gradual drip transfers. Large withdrawals trigger attention. Small, consistent transfers do not. One of the most common strategies is moving money in increments small enough to avoid raising suspicion. Instead of withdrawing $20,000 at once, funds are shifted in $300, $500, or $1,000 increments over months. These transfers may appear as consulting fees, reimbursements, business expenses, investment contributions, online purchases. Individually, they don't look alarming. Collectively, they add up. This tactic works especially well when one spouse doesn't regularly review bank statements line by line. Many couples rely on general balance awareness rather than transaction-level scrutiny. Over time, thousands, even tens of thousands, can quietly move into separate accounts, brokerage platforms, or cash reserves. The key here isn't the size of each transaction. It's the pattern. Small leaks sink ships. 2. Inflated or fabricated business expenses. If your husband owns a business or works as an independent contractor, financial opacity increases dramatically. Business accounts create legitimate reasons for money movement. Expenses fluctuate. Revenue varies. Transfers between accounts happen regularly. Within that complexity, personal funds can be disguised as equipment purchases, vendor payments, travel reimbursements, marketing services, operational costs. In some cases, a business may overpay a trusted friend or relative for services who later returns the money privately. Other times, expenses are simply inflated on paper. A $5,000 invoice becomes $8,000 with the difference diverted. Because business finances often feel technical and intimidating, many spouses avoid digging into them. Statements may be separate from household accounts, and accounting language can create distance. But complexity should never equal invisibility. When business finances become a shield against transparency, that's a red flag. 3. Overpaying taxes, then refunding later. This method is less obvious and surprisingly effective. A husband may deliberately overpay taxes through payroll withholding or estimated payments. On the surface, this looks responsible. Higher tax payments reduce available cash inside the household, meaning less money in shared accounts. Later, when separation begins or divorce proceedings are underway, the tax refund is issued. And depending on timing, that refund may land in an individual account, not a joint one. To someone not reviewing tax documents carefully, overpayment doesn't look suspicious. It looks cautious, but timing matters. If household cash flow tightens while tax overpayments rise, it may not be coincidence. 4. Shifting assets into safe names. Money doesn't always move as cash. Sometimes it moves as ownership. A husband might transfer assets into a relative's name, open custodial accounts for children, create a trust with limited visibility, shift business shares to a partner, title property under an LLC. These moves often have legitimate explanations: estate planning, liability protection, tax efficiency. But they can also serve as asset shielding. If you're not reviewing property titles, corporate documents, or beneficiary designations regularly, ownership changes can happen quietly. In divorce, tracing beneficial ownership can become complex and expensive. The key question isn't whether an asset exists, it's who legally controls it. 5. Converting cash into hard-to-track assets. Digital transfers leave trails. Cash, precious metals, and certain digital assets can be more difficult to trace. Some husbands move funds by withdrawing cash gradually, purchasing gold or silver, buying high-value collectibles, moving funds into cryptocurrency wallets, paying off loans held by friends or family. Physical assets can be stored privately. Digital assets can be held in wallets unknown to a spouse. Because these transactions often happen intermittently and may not immediately affect daily living, they're easy to dismiss. But if cash withdrawals increase while savings decrease, or if valuable items suddenly appear without explanation, it's worth paying attention. Liquidity can disappear long before separation becomes official. Why these movements go unnoticed? It's not because women are careless. It's because financial movement inside marriage is often wrapped in trust. Trust reduces scrutiny. Many women focus on shared goals: raising children, managing households, supporting careers. Detailed transaction monitoring can feel confrontational or unnecessary. There's also emotional resistance. No one wants to assume their spouse might be preparing financially for exit, so red flags are rationalized. He's just reorganizing accounts. He understands investments better than I do. It's probably tax-related. I don't want to overreact. And often, nothing malicious is happening. But financial transparency should not require blind faith. The subtle power shift. When money moves without shared visibility, power shifts quietly. The spouse with information controls options. They understand liquidity. They know available reserves. They see financial flexibility. The spouse without information reacts instead of plans. During divorce proceedings, this imbalance becomes obvious. One party arrives with organized records and pre-positioned assets. The other begins reconstructing history. That reconstruction can be stressful, costly, and incomplete. Warning signs to watch. Not every unusual transaction signals deception. A single unfamiliar charge or account adjustment can have a simple explanation. But patterns matter far more than isolated events. When financial behavior shifts gradually and access becomes limited, that's when attention is necessary. Pay close attention if access to accounts suddenly becomes restricted or if passwords are changed without conversation. If bank or credit card statements stop arriving physically, or you're told everything is paperless now without being included, that's worth noting. If business finances become too complicated to explain, or questions are brushed off with irritation, that dynamic matters. If you're discouraged from reviewing tax returns, or told it's unnecessary for you to understand them, that's a red flag. And if household cash flow feels tighter despite no visible lifestyle change, something may be shifting behind the scenes. Financial clarity should never feel forbidden. Transparency is partnership, not permission. Prevention is simpler than recovery. Once money has moved and assets have been retitled, recovering clarity can require legal intervention, forensic accounting, and court orders. Prevention is far simpler. Financial participation doesn't mean distrust. It means partnership. Review joint statements monthly. Understand tax filings annually. Maintain access to account logins. Keep copies of financial records. Know where assets are titled. Even if one spouse manages day-to-day finances, both should understand the structure. Transparency protects both partners, not just one. The emotional layer. Financial secrecy rarely exists in isolation. It often accompanies emotional withdrawal, increased privacy, or subtle distancing. Money becomes preparation. Preparation signals possibility. Possibility suggests contemplation of change. Women often sense emotional shifts before financial ones, but without concrete evidence, intuition gets dismissed. When emotion and finances begin shifting simultaneously, attention matters. This isn't about paranoia. It's about literacy. Healthy marriages thrive on shared visibility. If financial transparency exists, these patterns don't cause anxiety, they invite conversation. But if financial questions are met with defensiveness or avoidance, that response itself becomes information. Awareness doesn't destroy trust. Secrecy does. Final thoughts. Money moves quietly long before divorce becomes loud. Gradual transfers. Business opacity. Tax manipulation. ownership shifts, asset conversion. None of these tactics require dramatic withdrawals. They require patience and subtlety. The goal isn't to assume the worst. The goal is to never be surprised. Financial awareness is not suspicion. It is stability. Because whether a marriage lasts a lifetime or not, clarity about money protects your options and your peace. If you found this video informative, make sure to subscribe to this channel for more content. Thank you.